Hey guys, welcome back to more Karen neighbor stories. Imagine enjoying a peaceful dip in your own backyard pool when suddenly you catch your neighbor on a ladder snapping photos over your fence. You think that is the worst part? No, she went online and called me a predator for being naked on my own property. And the title story starts like this. I am from Western Europe, at least I was born there. My family, however, is originally from Eastern Europe. I still had some family back there that I would visit once or twice a year. I'm especially attached to my grandmother, who still remains in the town where my mother grew up. Recently, however, her health has not been doing the greatest, so my mom and I decided it would be better to move back to her hometown so that we could take care of my grandma and spend time with her. I won't go into details, but I was dissatisfied with my life living where I had been, and the decision to move back to Eastern Europe sounded like the sort of change of scenery that I needed. The thought was frightening, but I decided to go with it anyway. Honestly, I've been having a great time. I've been reconnecting with this part of my heritage and with my family members, especially my grandma, which makes me extremely happy. My mother's family home was a bit small, but luckily there was a house that went on sale around the time that we were set to move there. So I decided to buy it and live there. It was honestly very cheap because it's not that big, but I don't mind. It's only me living there, as my mother lives with my grandma in their home, and I'm close enough where I can visit my mom and grandma every day. The house I bought had an old pool in the back, and when I say old, I mean it was very old. The water had been drained out of it for a long time, and I could see some stains on the bottom. There were a bunch of leaves inside from the lack of maintenance, and it was generally just not a fun thing to look at. I decided to fix it up since I enjoyed swimming and thought it could be a fun way to pass the time. I got it running within a few months and have enjoyed it ever since. For privacy, I installed a fence around my backyard so I could swim in peace. It is around 2 meters in height, which I believe is around 6.5 feet for the Americans out there. Now, if you're not aware, Eastern Europeans are extremely friendly. I know there are a lot of jokes, especially about Russians. We are not Russian, but just one basic example, not smiling and whatnot, but Eastern Europeans are generally very respectful and nice to their neighbors and friends. I was greeted by such hospitality when I moved there. However, there was one neighbor that was quite the opposite. Some of my neighbors, along with my family, hosted an impromptu housewarming party for me. These neighbors were good friends with my family already, hence why they were so welcoming to me. We had a good time during the party, a little bit too much of a good time. Some of the men got so drunk that they refused to go back to their homes. However, during the party, some of the neighbors warned me about my next-door neighbor, who we will call Karen. Karen was apparently the neighborhood menace. She was just generally very rude and disrespectful and always wanted it to be her way or the highway. I was told to stay away from her if I could, and I took the advice to heart. Even though my new neighbors could have been gossip mongers and were just over-exaggerating the entire thing, I sort of believed them and did not want to deal with the hassle, so I just went along with it. Now, I think many people assume Europe, especially Eastern Europe, is cool during the summer, but it is not. While it certainly doesn't get as hot as a desert, it's still sunny, reaching up to around 27 degrees Celsius, 82 degrees Fahrenheit, and what's worse is that it is humid. And by the way, in some parts of Europe, it gets way hotter than that, let me tell you. Now, I don't know about any of you, but humid heat is worse for me than dry heat, so one day during the summer, I decided to take a swim because it was unbearably hot. Because of the humidity, I decided to skinny dip, essentially swimming naked. I know it sounds weird, but I was in the privacy of my own home and I wanted to be relieved from the heat. So for about an hour, I'm just relaxing in my pool and laying on one of those circular floaties. All of a sudden, I get the feeling that somebody is watching me. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. I try to ignore it, but a few minutes pass and it doesn't go away, so I look up to find my neighbor Karen peeking from the 2-meter fence, apparently standing on a huge ladder, taking pictures of me. I immediately cover myself to the best of my abilities and I start yelling at her. Karen, of course, immediately retreats and does not respond to any of my yelling. I shout at her for 5 minutes, but she does not reply. I dried myself off, put on clothes and walked over to her house to confront her. I pound on the door for the longest time. I honestly felt like a madman with the way I was banging on the door, but it's understandable, right? Well, I wait for a bit, but no one in her house responds, and I just decide to give it up before someone starts questioning what I'm doing outside her house. At this point, I feel extremely violated, but I don't have any evidence that she took those pictures, which she might have already deleted. So I just decided against calling the police, but I did decide to call my mom and talk about it though. That was probably a worse idea than calling the police, because she was yelling so much and making so many threats. I honestly thought she was gonna drive over and give Karen a piece of her mind. Thankfully, I calmed her down and told her not to do that, as I was worried it would cause even more trouble in the long run. Anyways, that night while I was getting ready for bed, I heard my doorbell ring. I came downstairs and found a police officer at my door. He said that he received a complaint from my neighbor, obviously Karen, that I had exposed myself indecently in public. I was shocked and explained that I'd been completely nude, but in the privacy of my own home. I clarified that I'd been swimming and that I had caught Karen looking over the fence taking pictures of me. I take it that he didn't believe me, but he told me that he would look into it. He returned to me the next day and said that he had interviewed some of my other neighbors who said they hadn't seen me do anything strange. He apologized for the accusations. I still felt weird about Karen having the photographs, so I asked if the officer could tell her to get rid of them. He said he would, and I thought that was it. However, I noticed that people started eyeing me weirdly, and once friendly neighbors no longer spoke to me. I mostly keep to myself, so I genuinely did not know what I might have done to offend them. Luckily, one of my neighbors, around 2 weeks after, approached me saying that she had something private to discuss with me. She explained that inappropriate pictures of me were surfacing around on the community forums. She showed me the photos. As I suspected, it was the photos of me at the pool. She said that Karen was claiming that I was a sexual predator and had exposed myself indecently to her at the public pool that was located near our neighborhood. To my relief, my neighbor did not believe Karen's words and believed me when I said that Karen had taken these without my permission. However, my other neighbors were not as convinced, and that's why they were looking at me weird. I was honestly very confused as to why Karen was doing this to me. After all, I had done nothing to her. I have not even talked to her. I guess she was just trying to ruin my reputation or something, as I had just moved there. I didn't want these pictures of me circulating everywhere, as it was honestly making me uncomfortable, and I also didn't want my reputation to be ruined. So I consulted a lawyer to see if I could take any action against her and possibly get some compensation. The lawyer explained that I was 100% in the right here and that swimming nude in privacy was legal, while Karen's photos were obviously not. He explained that I could immediately take legal action by bringing Karen to court. I did not want to go that far yet, but I did want the photos to get taken down, so I decided that I would threaten her with court if she didn't take down these photos. I confronted Karen when I saw her in her yard. She tried running back into her house, but I managed to catch up with her in time. I explained that the photos she took and posted made me extremely uncomfortable and that I had considered suing her. Because I did not want it to get so serious, however, I decided to give her a chance to take down the photos and post an apology, taking back her claims. And by the way, guys, if you would have been in this situation, would you have been as chill as OP? Seriously, if someone illegally took pictures of me nude and then posted them on the internet, I would not be acting like this. I would instantly take Karen to court, that's for sure. Let me know what you would do in the comments. Either way, Karen backtracked immediately and agreed to take down the photos. I was honestly surprised that she agreed so quickly, but I guess the thought of facing consequences for her actions really freaked her out. Makes me wonder how much she has really suffered for the trouble she makes around here. Anyways, that night I saw on the community forum that she actually did take down the photos, and she posted a short paragraph about how I was not a sexual predator and that she had actually lied. She did not necessarily admit to taking the photos, but I'm sure my neighbors could have guessed what happened. Much to my relief, my neighbors were quick to switch to my side. They apologized for not believing me at first and said that they should have known Karen was lying. Honestly, yeah, since Karen was the neighborhood troublemaker, but I guess they didn't have much of an opinion on me to counter Karen's lies. Still though, it is much better to believe that I was a sexual predator and it turned out I wasn't than Karen being in the right and them not believing her. Although I had originally decided against taking legal action against Karen, her public post led to a police investigation on her behavior, and finally she ended up having to pay compensation compensation to me, especially since I was nude in these pictures. She had to pay what would be the equivalent to $1,000. I also installed a security camera pointed towards her house, not looking into her house or her property, just towards the fence in her direction, if that makes sense. And also it had a motion sensor device installed, so I would know if she was looking over or anything like that. Karen has since left me alone, and I believe she's been gone from the neighborhood's public eye. I guess she was just embarrassed. Other than this brief, strange incident, I've been having a wonderful time here with my family, and I don't regret the move at all. I hope to make better memories here very soon. And the next one is a fantastic malicious compliance story that you don't want to miss. And by the way, if you enjoy the malicious compliance story, please don't forget to post some star emojis in the comments to show me your support. So I worked in the engineering department of a smaller manufacturing company, around 70 to 80 employees. My responsibility, among other things, was to handle any design changes, edit part and assembly drawings, bills of materials, etc. Previously, this was all handled by putting together a packet of actual paper documents that had to be shuffled from engineering to manufacturing, and sometimes ping-ponging back and forth if we were doing something complicated that required input from various people within those departments. Eventually, the company started to implement a software-driven procedure that was supposed to eliminate the stacks of paper that would sometimes get lost on someone's desk. The problem was that our bare-bones staff did not really have time to learn all of the ins and outs of the software and refine the process to be truly efficient. Basically, it was left so that if an item was entered into an engineering change order, it was locked down so that no one could build one, but also a customer could not even order one, or any machine that this item happened to be a component of until the change process was completed. Sometimes this could take weeks. I tried explaining several times that if we ever had to work on some item that is used in several of our products, this would bring everything to a screeching halt. My manager at the time understood this, but could never get all of the people who needed to work on the software procedure to sit down and finalize everything. Well, one day I was tasked with changing the design of a hardware component that was used in every machine we built. I told my manager that as soon as I started the process, no one in sales would be able to enter an order for any customers until the process would be completed. He shrugged and said, "Do it," knowing that I was right. Within 30 minutes of getting started, a salesman came to my desk asking why he could not enter an order. I explained what was happening, and he left, and soon after the VP of the company was at my desk asking what needed to be done. So I told him that he needed to corral everyone needed to hash out how the software was supposed to work properly instead of the half-assed "just lock everything down" deal they left off with. He immediately called in whoever was on that list. It took a few days, as I recall, and the component in question was expedited to be approved within the week. To this day, I use this story in interviews whenever I'm asked one of those questions like, "Give me an instance where you had to solve a major problem in the workplace." And the next one is a fantastic revenge story that is titled, "My grandma, the 85-year-old rebel, went to every pharmacy in town." So my grandma has always been a warrior for women's rights. She was the first woman in my country to head a major department for inspections and quality control at the biggest steel mill. Back in those days, the idea of a woman overseeing and judging the work of men was not just unusual, it was truly unheard of at that time. Oh, the things she went through, and honestly her life is filled with stories worth telling, but today I want to share something she did as an old lady. Few years ago, my country has taken a sharp turn to the right, so much so that at one point a law was passed allowing pharmacists to refuse to sell emergency contraceptives, the morning after pill, if it went against their conscience of the person selling it. Even if the pharmacy stocked the pill, a pharmacist could just say no on religious grounds. Fine, law is the law, people have their choices, right? Okay, but my grandma? She was not having any of that. She started going to every single pharmacy in the city, almost 1,000 in total. Every day she would visit a few new ones, and every single time she would do the exact same thing. She would ask, "Hello, do you sell the morning after pill?" Sometimes the pharmacist would look confused and ask, "The pill after what?" To which my grandma would reply loud and clear, "After sex." Depending on the answer, she had a prepared speech. Listen, I'm an old lady, 85 years old already. I'm the leader of the local senior citizens group in this area. This is absolutely not true, by the way, she was just pretending. And we elderly folks are the main customers keeping your pharmacy afloat. We buy the majority of your meds. Now we are going from pharmacy to pharmacy checking who sells the morning after pill. Because we want our grandkids to have children when they want them, not because some pharmacist with a so-called conscience says otherwise. And let me tell you this, those with a conscience, they can stuff their mouth with potatoes and pretend they enjoy it, because us old folks will be shopping somewhere else. And yes, we might disagree on politics, ethics and beliefs, but you cannot tell me my grandma did not have the guts, strength and sheer audacity to fight for what she believed in. And I love her very, very much. And by the way guys, I think this story was from r/traumatizedemback, so please let me know in the comments if you also enjoy this subreddit. And now let's move on to the next story. It starts like this. So many years back I opened a little beach cafe. Soon after I noticed a gap in the market where a lot of places were selling food but nobody was selling alcohol. I later learned it was because the approval is not as easy as it looks and it involves a lot more inspections and all of that. Still, I passed through everything and my beach cafe was now a beach bar. It was a hit and I had a ton of people coming to get food and drinks. I'm very strict about my employees not serving anybody who's very clearly too drunk, but sometimes it just happens. They can have that one more to take them over the edge and I get a very drunk person in return. This was more common once other places got licenses to sell. People would drink at one place and then come to my bar and get more after they were most likely cut off or something. Minor issues mostly that don't make for good stories. That is, except for this one time I was dealing with a very entitled and very drunk Karen. It was busy and I had 3 people call out sick, so I was working the kitchen, the bar and even cleaning. I heard an argument when I was mopping a mess at the bar and decided to go over and handle it myself. I knew a Karen when I heard one and sometimes I could have some fun messing with them. She was very loud and waving her hand around a lot when she spoke. Probably to show off her fancy watch, because that's the kind of thing people should wear through the beach. At least if their plan is to get it lost under 10 tons of sand to be lost forever. Me, how much has she had to drink? Employee, she only ordered a few. I think that some she was buying for her friends she ended up drinking too though. Tequila, shots and cocktails. I gave her the tab but she started getting really angry and I don't think she wants to pay. Me, you take care of the other customers and I will handle Karen. I go over to Karen and she just shoves her glass in my face like I was gonna give her a refill or something. She was beyond anybody I would serve and probably any place else would serve her. Especially with that crappy attitude. Me, miss, I think you've had enough to drink. I need you to pay now and go sober up. We can even give you a cup of coffee on the house. This is something I offer to most people that seem to have had too much. I don't really get a loss financially from it and people seem to like it. Karen, what I need is another drink, but the people here are useless and don't know who I am. Me, I'm sorry, but we cannot serve you anything else no matter who you are. Karen, you don't know that I'm a VIP. The owner gives me a discount and all of you grimy workers don't seem to get that. Okay, I was about to demand payment and kick her out, but I really wanted to see where this was going. I never met her before and we did not have any kind of VIP status. I asked her about it and let her give me a drunken ramble about knowing the owner and being an ex-girlfriend that he never really got over. I guess don't tell my boyfriend that. Anyway, also I found out after probing and trying to get her back on track that her discount was for 100% off and she didn't need to pay anything. She then devolved into insulting me and turning from a fun drunk into a very mean one. Something I actually expected from her since she was an entitled Karen after all. My limit was her trying to insult other customers and act like she had the power to get them all free drinks. Me, I'm the owner actually and I never met you in my life. You need to pay your bill now and leave. Go sober up, go party somewhere else, I don't really care. The police have had to be called several times when people get too drunk or simply don't want to pay their bill. Karen did not yell more or try to run off without paying, which is what made her different. I never saw a drunk person this coordinated before. She first took the glass and threw it at my head, shattering it. Then she jumped over the bar without falling and started punching me. 2 guys had to pull her off of me and even then it was hard to hold her back. She was screaming how I was scum and trying to scam her that she was gonna make sure the owner was gonna hear about this and I would be fired. She even used the frickin' cliche line of "You will never work in this town again." And once the police got her in handcuffs and I gave my statement including the fact that I wanted to press charges, I went to the hospital. I was okay, but I wanted to make sure there were no glass shards in my head and that I didn't need stitches. I was more interested in making sure also that Karen got what she deserved and never stepped foot inside my bar again. While waiting for a trial, I also alerted all the other places on the beach and they all banned her too. We might be competitors, but I wouldn't want anybody else getting hurt by her, because I can imagine her pulling this crap at another bar on the same beach too. I don't know how long her trial was, because I only came in for one day to talk about what happened, explain my injuries and swear that my security footage was true and not tampered with. Apparently her side was trying to get rid of the video as evidence, claiming I could alter it to make her look bad, which didn't make sense with all the witnesses that also saw her attack me and my hospital report. Actually, just now writing this, I don't know why she went to trial instead of just pleading guilty. Maybe this is just on TV, but I thought that you could get an even smaller sentence if you admit that what you did was wrong. Maybe even blaming it on being drunk could have caused her to just go to rehab or something instead of jail. My guess would be that the entitlement is just as bad when she is sober. She was found guilty for assault and battery and got a pretty light prison sentence. That also included, though, mandatory AA meetings while in prison and after she got out. To this day, though, I still have her up on my wall of banned customers, as does every other place on the beach. Even if she just wanted food, she was not gonna get it, and that's perfect to me. I love to think about if she comes to the beach with friends and trying to explain that she cannot go to any of the cafes, restaurants or bars. Do Karens even have friends though? Oh well, in my imagination she does, and gets embarrassed and shamed by them. And before we end the video, we will read one last funny story from r/pettyrevenge. It is titled, "He skipped the group project meeting, so I submitted it with only my name." So this was a two-person project. I reached out right away to plan things and he did not answer. I figured maybe he was just slow to respond, so I followed up again and again, but still nothing. No replies, no shows, not even a "hey, I've been swamped," just silence. So I kept going without him, did the research, built the slides, wrote the paper, proofread, edited. Honestly, I was proud of the work when it was done. The night before the deadline, I stared at the title page for a minute. His name was still there and I thought he did not do a single thing. Why should he get credit for work he didn't care about? So I deleted his name, submitted the file, closed my laptop and went to bed. He emailed me after the grade posted, asked why his name was not there. I did not bother answering, he had plenty of chances, and I just stopped waiting. And yeah guys, thank you for watching, it's been an honor and I will see you again tomorrow.